Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Black Accountant. It's your boy Mo, and if you haven't already done so, you know the drill. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and let me know in the comments of any kind of content you want to see going forward. But most importantly, don't forget to turn on notification bells so you get notified when I drop new videos. So today I want to talk a little bit about when you should leave a job, or when you should leave your job. And this is kind of a question I think a lot of us tend to ask ourselves, especially once you start to become a little bit unsatisfied with your job. Being unsatisfied with a job doesn't mean that you hate it or that you hate the people or you hate the workplace culture. It just means that either you might just be willing or ready for a change. There might not be an opportunity for growth. You might not be getting paid enough, even if you do like everybody that you work with. But those are all key factors that kind of play into when you should leave a job. So when you're starting to have this type of consideration, and it starts to kind of like creep up in the back of your mind of, okay, I want to quit or I want to leave, you should start asking yourself, why do I want to leave? And then before you start asking, should I leave? And oftentimes when we start thinking about this question, we start touching on those things that I just mentioned. It's usually something related to your growth as an individual. Oftentimes we start to feel a little bit stagnant, especially in a job where you're very comfortable doing everything. You know exactly what you're doing all the time. It stops being very stimulating because you're not challenging yourself anymore. You're not challenging growth. You know exactly what to expect. It becomes monotonous because you're coming in, you're doing the same repetitive task, and you're going home. So you might not be feeling as fulfilled doing that role or staying in that particular position. So this is when you can kind of start thinking about, hey, how do I pivot from this? Is there an opportunity for growth at this firm, at this company, or at this job? And if the answer to that is generally no, I think that's kind of one of those times where you start thinking, maybe I should start looking at another position. And then other times sort of come up with the workplace dynamic or the workplace culture. There are plenty of scenarios where you do enjoy the workplace, you enjoy hanging around your peers, but a workplace dynamic or a workplace culture is pretty much the relationship between the employees and management and customers. So like that entire playground or that entire dynamic is pretty much the culmination of a workplace culture. And I think this is probably one of the biggest reasons people do tend to leave jobs. And it's usually because management doesn't respect their employees. And I think this is probably one of the biggest downsides or downfalls for any business is when you start treating employees as expendable numbers and everybody as being replaceable, then you start to really lack in employee retention. You really start to lack in quality training and customer service. And oftentimes I find that this tends to happen with managers who just simply demand excellence without putting in any kind of work, which I think creates a toxic culture of just, you know, here's a boss and then and their employees versus here's a leader leading a culture or leading people or leading employees. And that tends to cause this kind of divide because when you don't respect your employees, then they start to feel unwanted or unnecessary or underappreciated in a job. And it kind of starts to bring up this question of, why should I be trying so hard if I'm going to get treated like shit? Or why should I go above and beyond if I'm not going to get paid anymore? And oftentimes it'll be sold to you or sold to an employee as, well, you know, you're working really hard because it's an opportunity for you to grow your skills and an opportunity for you to advance, which is true to an extent, but you can advance and you can take opportunities for growth anywhere, really, where you can still move to a culture where people will appreciate you and people who will value you at the skill set that you pretty much come in with, at the level of work ethic that you come in with. So I think that's probably one of the bigger reasons that people tend to start considering leaving a job. And I wouldn't blame anybody for doing that. Actually, I would encourage that you start looking at that. If you're not being valued and you yourself aren't valuing yourself well enough, that's when you should start thinking, hey, like, what are my skill sets? What am I good at? What am I contributing here? And then seeing if that's something you can leverage to ask for better conditions at work. And if that demand is not respected or reciprocated in the way that you're asking for, then that's when it's time to jump ship. That's when you should start thinking, hey, I need to leave this job. And I'm very well aware that a lot of people stick to jobs because they feel like that's my bread and butter. I have no other options, or I can't leave here. But generally speaking, any job is temporary. Any situation is temporary. If you want to escape poverty, or sorry, not poverty, if you want to escape a certain condition, or you want to get out of an industry, or you want to move up, there's always an opportunity to do so. It may be slower for you if you've been dealt a very shitty hand, but it still exists. The opportunity is still there. Let's say, for example, like I work like 2-3 jobs and they're all minimum wage and I'm barely making ends meet. I probably don't qualify for a job that requires a degree. So what I would do is substitute that. Let me see, like, what do I need to get that job? Do I need to get a degree? Maybe I should start studying and taking like 1 or 2 classes, what I can handle while I'm working. So pretty much after I clock out from this job, I'll spend 30 minutes to an hour a day studying for a particular class, and just taking this class at my local community college and start building up that credit. Maybe this job requires a certain certification, so I start working on that certification right after work. And it feels like work because it's definitely work. It feels tough because it is tough, because you're demanding more from yourself. You're coming home from a long day's work and not resting. You're coming home from a long day's work and saying, hey, yes, I do deserve a break, but I'm going to defer my break to later on when I've changed my situation, when I've achieved what I want to achieve and get to that better place. So when people tell you that you can change your situation, you definitely can. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It means that it's doable. And I like repeating that a lot, because a lot of times we tend to forget that. Because as soon as anybody tends to give advice or tends to tell somebody, hey, you can do this, then there's a billion excuses and reasons where it's like, hey, oh, but you don't know my situation. You don't know how bad I have it, XYZ. There's always a better opportunity. There's always demand out there. There's always going to be some kind of work to do. So that's kind of like one of those reasons that you should really start looking for another job. And just generally not getting paid enough. Not getting paid enough is probably also a really big reason. And there's a couple of articles, if I can find it, I'll probably link it over here, where it says that satisfaction or money is only a motivator until you hit about $75,000 or a little bit more. So basically, once you've hit this kind of financial security, not financial freedom, but financial security, then money doesn't become as much of a motivator in your decisions regarding your career, regarding jobs. But if you're getting underpaid for whatever it is that you're doing, like you're doing 2 people's jobs, or you're taking on way too much at work, then that's when you should kind of start looking for a better position. Even if you can handle that much work, maybe look for a job where, yes, you are taking on that work, but you have the title and the pay that matches the work that you're doing, instead of undervaluing yourself. I think one of the biggest lies really that employers kind of like to keep going, and I think it contributes to really toxic work dynamics, is overworking yourself and then saying it's for the sake of learning and it's for the sake of gaining experience. You can gain experience while being valued at your worth. So that's all I really had for today's video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the subject below. What's your reason if you've left the job recently? Why did you leave? Do you think there's any other reasons that people should or do leave their jobs? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys again in the next video.